Although in the last hour, a damning report by the US Coast Guard has found multiple safety, engineering and workplace protocols were not followed before the Titan submersible exploded while it was on a dive in the North Atlantic in June of 2023. All 5 people on board were killed instantly when it was destroyed by nearly £5,000 per square inch of water pressure. Well, the review also found that its operator, a company called OceanGate, had used intimidation tactics to evade scrutiny. Well, there were 5 people on board the stricken Titan submersible when it broke apart underwater in the North Atlantic. 3 of the passengers were British. On the left, 58-year-old British businessman Hamish Harding. He'd been on a number of extreme adventures in the past, including trips to space and the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. On the right, 48-year-old businessman Shahzada Dawood and his 19-year-old son Suleiman, who was a student at the time. The other 2 passengers on board were on the left, 77-year-old Paul Henry Nargeolet. He was previously a diver in the French Navy, nicknamed Mr. Titanic. He reportedly spent more time at the wreck than any other explorer and was part of the first expedition to visit it back in 1987, just 2 years after it was found. And on the right is Stockton Rush, who was the chief executive of OceanGate, the firm which ran the Titanic voyages. Stockton Rush founded OceanGate in 2009, offering customers a chance to experience deep-sea travel, and made global headlines in 2021 when it began offering trips to the site of the Titanic wreckage, costing more than £190,000. Well, also in the last hour, the family of 2 of the victims that we've just seen, Shahzada and Suleiman Dawood, have now released the following statement, and I'll read some of it to you. No report can alter the heartbreaking outcome nor fill the immeasurable void left by 2 cherished members of our family. We believe, says the statement, that accountability and regulatory change must follow such a catastrophic failure, adding that the family hopes the tragedy will serve as a turning point to bring meaningful reform, rigorous safety standards and effective oversight to the submersible industry. Well, let's just remind you of the last movements of the Titan submersible before it disappeared back in mid-June 2023. The craft was towed out to sea from St John's in Newfoundland off the Canadian coast and arrived at the site where the Titanic wreckage is located on Sunday the 18th of June. Once in place, it then began its dive, named Mission 5 by the company, in coordination with the mothership, the Canadian-registered Polar Prince ship. Heading under the waters, once a vessel went below 1,000 metres under the surface, the area the light would have faded and the craft would have been in complete darkness. 3 times further down than that is the wreckage of the Titanic, which rests nearly 3,800 metres on the floor of the North Atlantic Ocean. That is what the 5 passengers on board the Titan submersible would have been hoping to see. Well, it ended in disaster. Now we've had the report into that disaster. Let's speak to Jonathan Amos, the science journalist who previously worked as the BBC's science correspondent. Jonathan, you've had a chance to look through the findings of this report. It is, as we've said, a very, very damning report. Just sum up the findings as you see them.
Yeah, it's a very detailed report, as you say. It's also a very shocking report. They take us, the US Coast Guard, through the technical failings of this vehicle, this innovative deep submersible called Titan. It's a very unusual shape. Most deep sea submersibles are made of titanium or steel, very strong metals like that, and they're arranged in the shape of a sphere. The passengers would sit inside the sphere in order to be able to equalize the pressure when you go really deep. The Titanic is 3,800 meters down, 2 miles down, and it is a very high pressure environment. And this Titan submersible was not made from titanium or steel, it was made from carbon fiber. Yes, it had titanium components, but the main pressure hull where the passengers sat was made from wound carbon fiber in the shape of a cylinder, about 5 inches thick. And the Coast Guard concludes that that unusual design failed on this particular dive on the 18th of June 2023 at a depth of about 3,346 meters, as I say, 2 miles down. What happened was that the carbon fiber started to come apart, not just at that moment, but probably in the previous year when it was also making dives, many dives, over a dozen over the course of 21 and 22 down to the Titanic. That hull was starting to fail, and then it failed catastrophically on that morning of the 18th of June. And mercifully, the Coast Guard points out, those inside would really not have known much about it. The implosion that occurred would have been near instantaneous. That is merciful. So we see the technical failings in this document of what happened on that morning. But then the report goes into explaining what happened around that. And it goes into what can only be described as the toxic culture at the company that was operating the Titan submersible. This is a company called OceanGate, and in particular by its CEO, Stockton Rush, who also died in the disaster. And he used intimidation techniques. He would intimidate staff. He would threaten them with firings. He would fire them if they showed any dissent. He did not suffer fools. He did not suffer dissent. And it's regarded by the report that culture led the company down a very dangerous route where it overlooked safety concerns and even ignored and evaded those safety concerns. So yes, a damning report that has been produced by the US Coast Guard Marine Investigation Board.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you very much indeed. Jonathan Amos there, and the report does, by the way, recommend 14 recommendations, safety recommendations, in order to avoid repeats of that disaster in the future.